Well, welcome again to a Thursday night edition of the Gary Neville Podcast. We're at this amazing stadium. We wax lyrical about it, don't we, every time we come here, and I think everybody does. But they produce maybe not the most competitive derby, but certainly a compelling one. What's your first thoughts on it, Gary?
Yeah, I think I said before the game, when I first arrived, that it's actually my favourite game, year in, year out, actually, commentating for Sky Sports, because I feel like it's always a really good game. The atmosphere is absolutely electric, and been doing it now for 10 years, and done it a lot over 10 years, and very rarely disappointed. And I came in on a motorbike about an hour and 10 minutes before the game. I was quite late to the game, and very rare that we're actually arrived that late and see the fans on the streets in the way in which they were. And I went through Finsbury Park, and there were the Arsenal fans, probably about 1,000 of them outside a pub, and they were at it, and it was lively. And then I came further down the high road, Tottenham High Road, and it was the Tottenham fans, and it was absolutely electric outside. And I said during commentary it was lively, and it just always felt like it was going to be a really important match. The big determining factor in the match was the red card for Holding, and we'll come on to that. But it did take away a little bit from the game. It's disappointment in some ways, because it would have been great to see Arsenal with 11 men trying to come back from that sort of 2-0 down at half-time, or even 1-0 down, obviously. So it sort of took away a little bit from the game. It slowed the game down, because that first 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes was really sort of intriguing, and had a lot about it. And it was quite frantic and fast at times.
And Arsenal came here on the front foot, didn't they?
Did.
In the end, that's what got them into trouble, maybe?
Yes. You've got these... You used to say Mourinho masterclass, didn't you? And I think Conte is the type of manager that would have looked at Arteta tonight. And Mikel Arteta, I think he's right. You don't drop your principles. He's come out of the Pep Guardiola school of sort of we play our way. And he's not going to go back to his own box and defend 10 players, send outfield players behind the ball and say, come on, we're just going to counter-attack on you. They try and push up the pitch. They try and sort of, if you like, keep at least a mid-line. Conte will ruthlessly go back to the edge of his own box. He very much at the start of the game, and whether it was a tactic, I think it was passing slowly along the back and almost trying to draw Arsenal out, knowing that would then leave the space. So it was a clever play by Conte. He's a clever manager, knows the game inside out. He's methodical in his thinking. The patterns of play are there. We see them with Chelsea. We see them with whichever club he's at. And Arsenal came out in that first 5 minutes swinging, almost like the sort of... the lightweight against the middleweight type thing, whereby they were quicker and they were sharper, but then the powerhouse and the power of Tottenham just sort of gradually started to come, and then the big moment happened, the first goal. The first goal's critical in a game like this. The crowd were magnificent, but that first goal was the big change in the game, and it all fell apart from there and in for Arsenal.
It was the right back, Cedric, that did it. Did you imagine yourself in that situation?
Yes.
What should he have done?
Look, I've given penalties away. I've been sent off. I've done what Holding's done, 2 or 3 times in my career. But what Cedric did there, I used to do pretty well, which is just as the ball's arriving, you can't make the contact with the man that you're blocking before the ball arrives. You can do it after, but then obviously it's a waste of time because the ball's obviously gone past you. But it's just that timing of when you bump the striker so that the ball looks like you're trying to play the ball at the same time. And he got it really badly wrong, his timing. He did it too early. It was too obvious. And it's rash. It's a lack of composure, a bit of a panic. Maybe he's not read the flight of the ball. That could be another. Sometimes you think that the striker's going to get there, so you panic a little bit. But for whatever reason, not reading the flight of the ball, getting his timing wrong on the little nudge that, defenders do. And I felt for him, but it was lacking in composure, and there was something starting to happen, wasn't there, down this right-hand side?
Because Holding had already tangled with Son a couple
twice.
of times.
Yeah, so Cedric Holding on this right-hand side of Arsenal's defence, which you made the point would ordinarily be Ben White and Tomiyasu, and on the far side it would be Gabriel and Tierney. But I don't think we can complain, because you see Manchester City last night play without centre-backs, Stones and Diaz. So, the top teams with the squads, whilst obviously Arsenal don't have the sort of same luxury as Manchester City, you've got to be able to cope in games. And I think the mixture of Holding and Cedric being very nervous of Son's pacing behind them or letting him turn and run at them, and in the heads before the game what that could do with them, and Mikel Arteta asking them to push up the pitch and play high, I think it's probably contributed to that nervousness and that anxiety that's created these moments in the first part of the game.
Holding sending off, you looked at it at VAR. Some of the angles that we didn't actually have on our coverage, but you no doubt that Paul Tierney, who we saw have not a very good game quite recently, might have been that Leeds Manchester City game.
He didn't get a grip of that Leeds Manchester City game. I think he could have helped Holding earlier, but maybe he couldn't have done, because I don't see when he booked him, went and did that straight after. No, I was right behind it, and obviously when the ball's here, we have this sort of what would be 180-degree view, because we're looking at it, we've got a great view. And I was watching the run of Son. I always watch for those sort of inside runs of the strikers to see what's coming, particularly when there's a ball there. And I just saw this, because we're right behind it, and you just saw this come out. I think if he just goes with that and leans, he's okay. He probably won't get booked. But I think he's done a little bit of that. I think there's a little bit of elbow in it. And you'll say the VAR replays that we saw initially straight away just confirmed that. It was absolute madness from Holding, it really was. But I do put that down to Son. Sometimes when you're playing against a world-class player and you've got yourself sort of heads up before the game into that sort of state of, I've got to do this, I've got to mark him. You've probably watched too many videos of him. You probably watched him last week play against Liverpool, and you're thinking you know him well and thinking, how do I deal with him? And the worst thing was for me, I always used to think I had to find a way. But the worst thing is if you're playing against a player that people will say, well, he's quicker than me, so just drop off. So you drop off and then he picks it up to his feet and he's good enough to beat you with the ball at his feet and go either way. And that's when you've got a real top club player. They're only the very best can do that. Because ordinarily in a perfect world, you just give yourself a couple of yards, you'd relax back a little bit. There aren't many players who've got the ability to run in behind you without the ball, but then run at you with the ball and go past you as well. And Son can do it. He's absolutely outstanding. You mentioned he doesn't get the recognition, and I think that's got into Holding's head. And so I've got some sympathy for him. It's just sometimes you're playing against a great player and it just catches up with you, it gets the better of you.
Do you think, and Mikel Arteta was talking about that earlier in the week, that the crowd, I mean, it was fierce.
Yeah.
David Jones used that word. I think it was a very good word for it. And he was worried about the number of players who hadn't experienced it. Arsenal played here a couple of times in the Premier League, but through the pandemic with no fans or few fans. And did that contribute to the sort of loss of composure, if you like, which led to the loss of the game?
Certainly at 1-0. I think certainly after 1-0, this crowd they were buoyant before 1-0, but after 1-0, they were all over the place. It was mayhem, I think I described after the first goal. And at that point, Arsenal did wilt. They capitulated in that part of the game. And again, I saw it happen in the sort of last derby at Main Road when I gave that goal away on the byline against Sean Goulton. It created a carnival atmosphere. And once you've created that carnival atmosphere in a ground like this, and I think the hostile's fair. Fierce is fair. We would never ordinarily say Tottenham Hotspur, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is a hostile stadium. But that was.
This is a hostile fixture.
That was testing tonight. I think I always felt like this would be a special game. It is usually anyway, but what's on it? I think why it was cancelled early on in the season, and then what's at stake. You never want to really create a cliff edge, but Champions League football or no Champions League football for Arteta and Conte, for Tottenham and Arsenal, from an economic point of view, is just off the scale, huge. And the drop is so big that it's massive, and the feeling is big. But then you've got the way in which that game was cancelled early on in the season. We aborted our travel the day before. I did on the Saturday, and I was a little bit annoyed at Arsenal at that time.
They loaned a couple of players out as well.
They did. They loaned in the week. So it was all a little bit messy in terms of how.
It was in between the two Carabao Cup semi-finals against Liverpool, wasn't it?
They should have been made to play, in my opinion, and obviously at the time it was.
And in Tottenham's opinion as well.
Yeah, in Tottenham's opinion, I think Tottenham were right. So I always felt there was a little bit of needle coming into this game on three fronts, just generally because of what was at stake, where the teams are in the league, and then how it was cancelled earlier on in the season. And it being a Thursday night game just adds to it. Just really sort of you don't ordinarily get. The games I've done, North London derbies, have mainly been Sunday afternoon fixtures. So it just had everything it really did in that period, and it was red hot in here in terms of the atmosphere. It really is, and I think it just got to Arsenal. Those young players. They looked mentally weaker in that period of the game, from sort of 10 minutes to sort of 35 minutes when, I don't know, he was holding 35 minutes, he got sent off around that period. It just got to them, and it can happen, but it did tonight.
What damage do you think that has done? Well, we talked about it when Man City came back from Real Madrid and they put up a 10-goal defiance in 2 games. But Arsenal probably not quite in that calibre. And
No.
Newcastle away, Newcastle's last home game, they'll want to end with a bit of a celebration. And Arsenal without Holding now, and look like Gabriel is going to be out as well. And
you'd want Tottenham's games, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You would want Tottenham's games, Burnley at home and Norwich away. Now, we know Burnley are playing for something, but so could Everton be on the last game of the season. I mean, if Newcastle away on the Monday night, that's going to be really, really tough. It's just going to be really, really tough. And Newcastle...
But especially if Spurs have won on the Sunday.
Oh, if Spurs have won on the Sunday, the pressure on that game. We're doing the game Monday Night Football, and I'm on the game myself. Everton at home, the last game. If Everton need points, then they've got 2 really tough games. At this moment in time, I actually thought Tottenham would win this game tonight. I'm not very good at predictions, but I actually thought Tottenham would win this game. Before the game, earlier on in the week, I think I said I thought they would win, and it's turned out to be that way. And I think Tottenham will beat Burnley, and I think Arsenal will have to win their last 2 matches, and I'm not sure they will. I think that was a really big blow tonight. I might be wrong, and I'm absolutely neutral between these 2 clubs. There's no sort of, I'd rather Arsenal do it, I'd rather Tottenham do it. At the end of the day, both teams go for it, and whoever wins, I'd say well done. But I do feel now, if I had to put a pound on it, would be on Tottenham.
And how much will this mean to them, to give them the spring in the step? It is, as Conte's pointed out, and probably pointing out downstairs now, it's a turnaround that, by his standards, what he's used to, it's too quick.
What's happening with Conte at the end of the season?
I think he's liking it a bit more. From my intel, is that he's a bit happier than he was.
It looks like that.
He looks happier, doesn't
he? He does. I mean, tonight, there aren't going to be many clubs in Europe that Conte's going to be able to go to. And I have to say, this is the league at the moment. I've been critical of this league, Martin, 4 or 5 years ago when it was underperforming in Europe. But this is a great league at this moment in time with great managers. It is where I think you want to be a manager in terms of sort of showcasing yourself. And actually, what he's seen tonight was pretty special. In fact, it was very special what he saw tonight. That atmosphere that I've not seen in a stadium in this country this season. And I think this has been one of the highest standard Premier Leagues that I've ever seen, if not the highest. So for me, that's a pretty high compliment. And I think for Conte, that was big tonight. But I think Champions League, no-brainer. He stays. The only danger is that he basically wants to be in the Champions League. He needs to be in the Champions League. So it's a big week. But I do think tonight, irrespective of whether they get into the Champions League or not, must have an impact on Conte. I know that he's quite ruthless around what his plan is, where he wants to be, what he wants to do. But like I say, that must have had a massive impact on him. And I think that those players tonight out there, they'll see something building if they get in this sort of Champions League in the next week or so. And I think that he'll definitely stay. But it's going to do unbelievable things for Spurs in terms of the last week of the season. Arsenal, they look stronger and more experienced, don't they? You just look through the team: Højbjerg, Bentancur, Kane, Son.
As I said, they're a little bit older, man.
Lloris, Dyer.
And that might be the trouble for Conte, of course, that some will need some replacing.
They will, but at the moment, with 2 games to go, they just look more composed, didn't they, tonight? More relaxed, more mature and in order. Whereas Arsenal look more sort of, if you like, fragile. And I think that in the last week of the season, you want that reliability. And I do see them being favourites now. I know Arsenal have got the sort of point, and if they go and win the last 2 games, absolutely unbelievable. Well done. If they go to Newcastle and win, and then beat Everton on the last game of the season, brilliant for Arsenal. Mikel Arteta's done a great job this season. But I think it's tough. I do think it's tough. Because I'm coughing.
Since we last spoke, actually, before we go on to since we last spoke, we've got to this point without mentioning Harry Kane. Man of the match, 13 goals in the North London derby. And I do appreciate penalties, and I know he does, because that's a battle of wits. The goalkeepers do massive homework on it, and we know Kane likes to go one side, and Ramsdale went that side, and Harry came up with a perfect penalty from that point of view.
He did. It was actually a lesson. I always remember Sir Alex in the very early days at United. Harry Kane tonight got 1 touch, I think, in the first 15 or 20 minutes of the match. And I think the eager, immature, inexperienced centre-forward does what the opposition want him to, and then starts to drift wide, starts to drop deep. And I remember Sir Alex always used to say, be patient, hold your position in between the two centre-halves, stay there, eventually the moment will come. And Harry really did show some patience in that first 20 minutes. He could have got eager, he could have gone and sort of started dropping in, he could have started moving wide to get on the ball and sort of involve himself in the game, but he didn't do. He held that central position. El Neni was blocking him off brilliantly. It was good from Arteta, but eventually the game started to come to him. He's playing at a really high level, and earlier on in the season there was this feeling that his time here was up. He wasn't happy. His form had gone. What's happened to Harry Kane? You know, sometimes we can be a little bit embarrassing when you look back at your conversations you've had about the same player 6 months ago. But I've always said this is gold, Harry Kane. This is the most reliable thing that you could invest in. I had him with England for 4 years as assistant coach to Roy Hodgson, and honestly, he's unbreakable up here. Unbreakable. He's Shearer-like. He is the only person that I've ever seen that's like Shearer. In terms of doesn't carry, he has emotion, of course, but he's completely sober in every part of his life when he's thinking about the game, his preparation. He'll get the chances. You know, the repetition of the strike into the far corner. Shearer was exactly the same. And tonight, what we're seeing, I mean, I thought his performance at Anfield last week was special. I thought it was special. Difficult to play well against Van Dijk's back four, that pressing midfield, that aggressive small pitch, that Anfield atmosphere, what was on the game. For him to do what he did last week at Anfield was really special. It was a top performance from a centre forward, and he's done it again here tonight. And Son, special word, he was gutted when he came off. He told us, Son told us that he didn't care about the Golden Boot, and then just completely blew that out of the water with the fact that he went on a massive rant at his manager, but in a nice way, but it was a rant.
And that's another reason why he doesn't get mentioned as much, because you've got Harry Kane to contend with, hasn't he, for the headlines? And
yeah.
Who's going to make the headlines again tomorrow? It's going to
I think I was reading his lips at one point on the bench, and I think he said, why didn't you take Harry off, not me?
Yeah.
He was absolutely fuming because he was like, hang on a minute, why have you taken me off? But it is a compliment to be taken off for him because he's got that energy, and imagine if he does something in the last 10 minutes or one of the Arsenal players, you know, takes him out. And he's big for the last 2 games. But he wants that 22nd goal. He wanted to get level with Mo Salah.
He wanted 23.
He did. He smelt it, and he could feel it. He'd missed a big chance, hadn't he, on the sort of pullback. And no, it was a nice thing to see him actually react like that because he's so placid and calm in matches. But I mentioned the word, he's a dream. Harry Kane is gold, and Son is a dream. He's a dream of a player. Just someone who you just think, has he ever done anything wrong? On a pitch,
He's
off
been
a
sent
pitch.
off a couple of times.
Yeah, well, that's not bad.
I was going to say, the top 2 have played since we last spoke in the podcast.
Yeah.
So what have you made of Liverpool's win at Villa and Manchester City's destruction of Wolverhampton Wanderers?
It was big. It was big for Liverpool because they were pushed and they were tested, going a goal down. So I thought that was big, and I did see some sort of what would be hiccup in City at Wolves or at West Ham. So last night when Wolves equalised, I thought, here we go.
Well, they were played through Manchester City, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were really opened up with obviously problems in the middle at the back.
They have got problems at the back, and they're having to cope with that. And Fabinho going off on Tuesday, I think, could be a problem for Liverpool because I think he's big. I don't know what's happened. Have you heard any news since in terms of what's up with him? But that if he was out for a couple of weeks, that would be a real problem. Because obviously he needs to be fit for the FA Cup final, for the running of the league, but also the Champions League final. So I think these, starting to pick up little injuries. City are certainly picking up injuries at the back, and you thought, Wolves could get through them, but then De Bruyne. There are no more words. He's a thing of beauty to watch. We haven't got the most famous players in the world in this league, but I think we've got the best. We haven't got an Mbappe. We've probably got Haaland coming now who will take that mantle.
Benzema, I suppose, would come into that. And he's never been near a Premier League team, really.
No, but you look at De Bruyne, you look at Salah, you look at Van Dijk, you look at Son, Kane. They're not what you would call they're not on the front of the sort of the branding pitch, the billboards,
no,
are they?
We had Ronaldo back though, didn't we?
Yeah, we got Ronaldo. Yeah, but that's a phenomenon. In terms of the billboard of the sort of current best, we've got a lot of players that are just world class but very professional and aren't what would be. They haven't commercialised themselves. You know, Pogba obviously is going to leave, and he was probably a player that was sort of that sort of, if you like, commercial entity. Celebrity, yeah. We haven't got, but we've got absolutely brilliant football players who are ultimate professionals, who are performing at a consistency level. Son, Kane, Salah, Mane, Van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, De Bruyne, Foden, you know, even going through the other City players, that, you know, Bernardo Silva. They're not stars, they're not celebrities, they're not sort of, if you like, you don't see them in the front page of the newspaper, you don't know where they are in the evenings, but they're all absolutely brilliant. And I think that's a pretty good...
You do know where they are in the evening, they're at home.
Yeah, they're at home, yeah. It's a pretty good place, I think, in terms of, you know, what Jurgen Klopp expects from a football team, what Pep Guardiola expects from a football team. There's no Galacticos in these sort of areas, and they're not the most famous, but I do think they are the best. And what Kevin De Bruyne did last night was exceptional, and it continues to be exceptional. The reaction of Kevin De Bruyne to going out of the Champions League is, on Sunday against Newcastle, we were there. He was wonderful. And last night...
2 man of the matches since. Also, 2 bookings, his first 2 Premier League bookings of the season, as if he's come back from Madrid saying, I'm not having this. I'm going to do everything possible to make sure we don't slip up in another competition.
Well, City have gone out of Europe in the most devastating fashion. And I mentioned how would they cope from that, because I've been there where you've gone out in that type of way, and it's horrible. It really does have a big impact on you. But the way in which they've reacted on the pitch has been brilliant. And the way in which they've reacted off the pitch by signing Haaland is devastating. It's saying, we've recovered, we're taking it in our stride, and we're going again. And they've stepped ahead. And great clubs, when they're in a great moment, they do business absolutely perfectly silently and at the right time and early. And City have been a great club for the last 5 seasons, winning 4 leagues. It looks like they're going to do that now. But look, they've got a big game on Sunday. We're at West Ham, aren't we, on Sunday? And
West Ham have still got a bit to play for.
They have, and I still think there's something there. I thought there would be a hiccup. It's whether that hiccup is going to be enough for Liverpool. That's the thing. That goal difference now obviously is extended beyond what Liverpool would have liked, even if Manchester City do lose. So I think that there's still something to play for. I still don't think the league's over. But Kevin De Bruyne has almost, if you like, in these last 2 matches, responded brilliantly, most brilliantly, and he's a level that we don't see very often.
Well, that's the lesson to Arsenal. You've got to respond like Kevin De Bruyne.
They have
to get into the.
We've got Mikel Arteta on our screen there. Sorry, haven't we? He looks. You know, his manner looks good. I think he'll have gone in. I think he'll have given himself a bit of cold water on the face and say, look, we've got to go again. I mean, we got a man sent off. We didn't handle it well, but they've got 2 big matches. It's a big moment for Mikel Arteta. The pressure on these young managers, I know he takes the job and he gets paid handsomely for it. But how he's viewed is dependent upon a sending off tonight. What happens at Newcastle on Monday almost in some ways shapes his career as a manager and whether he's going to be a success or not. The reality of it is he's done a very good job at Arsenal, but that Champions League would be FA Cup. Took them into the top 4. You're starting to build a successful sort of CV. Don't get them into the top 4 and Conte comes in and then it just starts to sort of come down a little bit. So, look, I think he's got a long career in the game, so it's not going to be dependent upon what happens on Monday night. But these sort of what be steps up the ladder and these leg ups that you need as a manager and these little bits of luck, he'll find out whether Lady Luck's on his side in the next week, what happens in these games against Newcastle, what happens with Tottenham against Burnley. And we'll be there to watch it. And I think the fact going into the last part of the season, we've got an incredible relegation fight. We've got top 4 alive and kicking like you wouldn't believe with Tottenham and Arsenal. And then we've got Liverpool and City at the top going for it. It's what we want. We want the last week of the season to be sort of, if you like, going on all fronts. There have been weeks when we've actually gone into the last week when there's been nothing on the line. And we're all wondering, right, where we're going to go this week. What's that trophy lift again? But no, it's a good last week for us to look forward to.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.